woman in plain clothes steps into an airport, calm and unassuming. Within minutes, a security officer accuses her of hiding contraband. He orders a strip search in front of a gathering crowd. She stays silent, composed, and unbreakable. No one knows her identity. Not the officer humiliating her. Not the passengers watching in uneasy silence. Not the supervisor who authorizes the search. Nobody knows she is the youngest Navy SEAL Admiral in U.S. history. Undercover, returning from a classified rescue operation. And the moment her true identity surfaces, the silence breaks the world in half. Where are you watching from today? Before we begin the story, please make sure to subscribe. This channel brings you immersive stories that honor courage, dignity, and unseen heroes. The first accusation hit the air like a blade. You, step aside. Now. The voice was sharp, public, humiliating, cutting through the airport terminal's steady hum. Heads turned. Bags paused mid-roll. A line of passengers stiffened as the woman in the dusty gray jacket lifted her gaze. She didn't flinch. Not even when Officer Braddock jabbed a finger toward her chest, his eyes narrow with suspicion born not from evidence, but ego. I said, step aside. You've been flagged for a more thorough inspection. A murmur rippled across the crowded terminal. People sensed the injustice long before they understood it. Something was wrong with the way he spoke to her. Wrong with the entitled sneer curling his lip. Wrong with the simmering humiliation brewing in his tone. She gave no protest. Only a steady, unsettling calm, and that calm was gasoline to Officer Braddock's spark of arrogance. Empty your pockets. Remove your jacket. His voice grew loud, drawing eyes. If you've got nothing to hide, then prove it. Passengers exchanged glances, pity, discomfort, a fear of speaking up. A few stepped back, distancing themselves from the spectacle. The woman's stillness unnerved him. He wanted fear, or anger, or at least compliance contaminated with embarrassment. But she offered none. And when he demanded, "You're about to undergo a strip search," the entire terminal fell into a suffocating silence. No one knew who she was. Not yet. But something in her eyes, quiet, steady, anchored in oceans deeper than any uniform Braddock had ever worn, suggested this confrontation would not end the way he imagined. To the passengers, she appeared at first glance like anyone else, exhausted from travel, weighed down by long nights and longer journeys. Her jacket was wrinkled, her boots scuffed, her hair bound in a low, practical braid that looked like it had withstood storms. But as she removed the jacket, slow and silent, a ripple of detail began to emerge. A faint scar across her forearm, delicate, but too straight to be accidental, calloused knuckles. A subtle stiffness in her left shoulder, the kind born from injury long ignored. Eyes that scanned the environment not out of fear, but out of habit. Those eyes carried stories of deserts, oceans, foreign streets, and nights without stars. Yet she said nothing. A woman of few words. A woman accustomed to being underestimated. A woman who walked as though she knew exactly where she'd been, and exactly where she might need to stand her ground. It was discipline. It was the quiet before an inevitable shift. 3. Sr. Terbiscase to our 200-300 Woards, her name unspoken, unrecognized, was Admiral Rhea Lawson. The youngest Navy SEAL Admiral ever appointed. The first woman to hold the rank, a ghost to the public, a weapon to the nation. Her life had been carved from sacrifice, from 18-hour training days and deployments that stretched into years. From missions she could not speak of, medals she could not display, victories she could not claim. She had spent nights lying on desert rocks, listening to wind carry the distant cries of hostages she had risked everything to save. She had once walked barefoot through a ruined village to carry a wounded comrade when the evacuation failed. She had held fading soldiers in her arms, whispering promises she'd never break even when war demanded more than any human should give. Rhea Lawson knew loss intimately. She carried it in her wrists, in her spine, in the quiet ache behind her eyes. Her last mission, classified covert haunting, had ended just 48 hours ago. She returned bruised in spirit but unbowed. A life saved, 2 allies extracted, a young Marine shot twice, survived because she refused to leave him behind. But to the world around her now, she was just another traveler, a tired woman in line, a stranger with a worn passport. And perhaps that was her strength, her invisibility, until this moment, until an arrogant officer, starved for control, demanded she strip her dignity in front of watching strangers. Officer Braddock motioned her toward a cordoned-off screening area. A partition stood to the side, flimsy and half open, hardly offering privacy. "This is standard procedure," he said, though everyone knew it was not. Non-compliant behavior warrants escalation. She had been perfectly compliant. His ego needed justification, his insecurity needed dominance, his authority needed an audience. Passengers watched with unease. Some looked away, pretending not to witness the injustice unfolding. Others stared, torn between outrage and the fear of speaking up. A mother pulled her daughter close, whispering, "This isn't right." A businessman swallowed, jaw tight, eyes shifting as if debating whether to intervene. A young man filmed discreetly from behind his boarding pass. The supervisor approached, Officer Langley, a man who carried his own insecurities beneath an ill-fitting uniform. Instead of correcting Braddock, he reinforced him. "Go ahead," Langley said, scratching his chin. "Full strip search. She's flagged." "Flagged for what?" No one asked. The question hung heavy but unspoken. She stepped into the partially closed space. Her face remained unreadable. Humiliation was being forced upon her, but dignity could not be taken. It could only be surrendered, and she had long ago learned to surrender nothing. Her silence was unsettling. Her calm was unnerving. Something about her posture, feet grounded, shoulders squared, breath steady, suggested she had stood in far more dangerous places than this. Braddock smirked as she removed her boots. "You think staying quiet makes you look innocent," he taunted. She did not respond. Silence to her was armor. Silence was command. Silence was the language of those who did not need to prove themselves. She handed over her boots, then her belt. Her movements were slow, controlled, deliberate. Braddock grew irritated. He wanted fear. He wanted fluster. He wanted her to break. Instead, the only thing breaking was his composure. Langley crossed his arms. "Continue," he ordered. "We need to ensure she's clean." Clean. A word that struck several passengers in the chest like an insult. A word that carried a venom stronger than protocol. Rhea lifted her shirt only enough for visual inspection. Her torso bore scars, faint but unmistakably tactical. One ran diagonally beneath her ribs, the memory of a night when metal bit her flesh, but didn't cut her mission short. Braddock blinked. Langley frowned. "Where are those from?" Braddock muttered. She didn't answer, couldn't answer, wouldn't answer. She stood half-clothed, exposed in plain sight, yet not a shred of vulnerability emanated from her. Only strength, quiet, devastating strength. A young TSA officer, Emily Cortez, approached hesitantly. Her badge was crooked, her voice timid, but her conscience was loud. "Sir, protocol requires a female officer to conduct." Langley cut her off. "She doesn't get special treatment." Emily looked at the woman, this stranger with ancient strength in her eyes, and something inside her whispered that she was standing on the wrong side of history. And that whisper would soon become a roar. As Rhea removed her final layer, something slipped from the inside lining of her jacket and landed softly on the floor. A small, weathered leather tag, no bigger than a dog tag, yet older than any in official circulation. Braddock bent to pick it up. The moment he turned it over, his breath hitched. Emily gasped softly. Langley paled. Passengers leaned forward instinctively. It wasn't a tag, it was a clearance coin mat, blackened at the edges, engraved with a seal few civilians ever saw. Tier 1 identification, SEAL command level, a rank insignia only 3 people alive possessed, and a designation number belonging to exactly one woman, Admiral Rhea Lawson. Emily's knees nearly buckled. Braddock's lips parted. His face drained of color. Langley stuttered, "This has to be fake." But the weight of it in Braddock's hand told the truth. The intricate etching impossible to counterfeit. The embedded micro seal that shimmered faintly beneath the fluorescent lights. He had attempted to strip search a decorated admiral, a war hero, a woman whose name could summon entire bases to attention. Rhea didn't snatch the coin back. She didn't speak. She simply stood still, her silence louder than any accusation she could have uttered. Emily Cortez stepped forward first. The youngest officer. The quietest. The one whose conscience outweighed her fear. "Mom," she whispered, voice trembling, I am so sorry." Rhea offered a nod, small but powerful. A gesture acknowledging not apology but courage. Langley attempted to regain control. "We still need to verify," he never finished. Because the terminal doors burst open, not with violence, but with discipline. A line of military personnel entered the airport, their movements precise, purposeful, impossible to mistake. They wore plain clothes, but their posture gave them away. They were there for one person only. Admiral Lawson, the highest ranking among them. Commander Hale strode forward and stopped exactly 3 feet from her, spine straight, expression rigid. Every officer in the terminal felt their breath freeze. "Admiral Lawson," Hale said, loud enough for all to hear, "your transport is ready." Braddock stumbled backward. Langley wilted. Passengers looked around, shock dawning like sunrise. She was an admiral, an elite Navy SEAL, a leader of leaders, a protector of the nation. And they had humiliated her. Rhea reached for her jacket, sliding it on with quiet dignity. Hale waited, unwavering. Emily swallowed hard, tears threatening to spill. And then, as Rhea stepped forward, she finally spoke her first words, calm, devastating, unforgettable. "Power isn't proven by who you control. It's proven by what you protect." Vic. The terminal grew still. The kind of stillness that transforms witnesses into believers. Braddock stared at the floor, shame burning his cheeks. Langley's jaw trembled. Emily bowed her head, not in shame but in respect. Rhea turned toward them, her voice gentle but ironclad. "This dignity isn't yours to give. It's mine to keep." Two passengers exhaled softly, as though the tension had physically held them in place. Word spread through the terminal like wildfire. Passengers stood, not in panic, not in confusion, but in solidarity. One by one they rose from their seats. Some placed their hands over their hearts, others bowed their heads. A few whispered, "Thank you," though she wasn't close enough to hear. Emily Cortez stepped forward and saluted, shy, trembling, sincere. Rhea did not demand it, did not expect it, but she acknowledged it with a soft nod that said, "Courage comes in many forms." Braddock, devastated by his own arrogance, attempted to apologize, but she lifted a hand gently. "No need," she said with quiet finality. "Accountability isn't an apology, it's a change." Hale gestured toward the exit, but Rhea paused once more, turning toward the crowd. Her gaze met those who had watched in silence, those who felt the weight of their inaction. And yet, she did not judge them. Instead, she spoke with weary compassion. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is speak up. Sometimes the second bravest thing is learning why you didn't. It pierced deeper than anger ever could. Passengers lowered their eyes, reflective, humbled, awakened. As Rhea walked out, escorted by her team, the entire terminal parted for her, forming an aisle of reverent silence. Not one person moved until she disappeared beyond the glass doors. An airport, often loud, chaotic, impatient, was left in awe of her strength, her silence, her unshakable honor, and of the quiet power she carried like a shadow few would ever understand. Silent heroes walk among us every day. Some wear uniforms, some carry scars, some carry burdens we will never know. Admiral Rhea Lawson was one of them. Her strength was not in her rank, or her medals, or the elite teams she commanded. Her strength was in her dignity, her restraint, her unwavering belief that honor is not displayed, it is lived. If her story moved you, inspired you, or made you reflect on the power of respect, let us know. Where are you watching from today? And what part of this story stayed with you the most? Don't forget to subscribe for more cinematic stories of unseen courage and silent heroes. Thank you for being here. Your presence honors the stories we tell.